Hello, and welcome to the W.A.I.T channel. What Am I Thinking? A podcast where two sisters share uplifting conversations on fun and sometimes serious topics.
Join us each week by clicking the notification bell and subscribing to our channel. If you enjoy the show, use the share link. It's one of the best ways to expand the conversation.
Hello again, and welcome back to What Am I Thinking? So today we are going to dive into one of our favorite Bravo shows this season, Summerhouse. I'll let you take it from here, Tracy, because this, I know both of us, we have so much to say about this particular program, but we don't have an hour, and we're going to try and keep this as concise as possible. So why don't you do the recap?
So when we last checked in, we were trying to kind of say, was it, whose side were you on? Basically everyone else or Lindsay? And now we see a true team dynamic between Lindsay and Karl. And guess what? Even Danielle finds herself either going with the other side or on an island unto herself right now. So there has been an issue with Kyle and Karl related to Karl's work stance. And so, to be fair, Kyle has been venting and saying some things in a reckless way, especially as the CEO of a company. But on the other hand, what CEO would keep an employee who has done some of the things that Karl has done related to work? So he's doing great now, seemingly, but it's like they're both seeing it through two different lenses. And when I say lens, I don't mean L-E-N-S. I mean L-I-N-S. So Karl is looking at everything through the lens of his girl, Lindsay. And I have to say, that's why it's a little twisted. But the relationships in the house, there is a difference when Karl and Lindsay are in the dynamic. But we saw in this last episode, the first day of them being there, it was Kyle and Amanda who missed the day for something with Kyle's family. And the previous episode, it was Karl and Lindsay who were gone to a wedding. So everyone is back in the house except Paige wasn't there at first for a lot of the drama that happened. So she's just getting kind of caught up with the drama. So the big drama, Lori, was this game that Danielle played. And if anybody watches Miami, they will know that she had to have gotten this from the Miami girl, Marisol. And one of the questions was, who in this house do you trust the least? And she chose to pick Amanda. Well, Amanda had been drinking, and we know it probably don't take that much for Amanda to get drunk. And she was in her feelings, and she was hurt. And Kyle, the protector that he is, he went off. Because not only did Danielle say she chose Amanda, but Lindsay had to take the opportunity to piggyback on it. And really, in all truth, Danielle saying that was on behalf of Lindsay, because it was based on Amanda, which I had not seen this clip or heard about this when they were at, I guess, BravoCon. Amanda made a comment about Karl working for us and being our employee, and Lindsay tainting him or something like that. Granted, in poor taste, but a lot of truth in that.
But truth. I mean, honestly, right, just because you don't like that she said the words aloud, it doesn't make it any less untrue.
Right. And so It's just one of those things that Lindsay decided to use as a reason, because I think she's still mad at Amanda because what Amanda said on BravoCon about Lindsay not being the nicest person to the fans. I believe that was what Amanda said on Watch What Happens Live. So there are a lot of reasons why Lindsay is not going to be pro Amanda. She just needed to find some excuses to get some other people to buy into.
Okay,
and
let's
comment was one.
Right.
So in any case, you kind of have Lindsay and Karl. Oh, this is a moment that I can't miss, Lori. When Kyle was going off, he put his venom at Lindsay instead of Danielle because he knew Danielle was basically just saying this for Lindsay. And he was being he said some very demeaning and mean things. And Danielle is fussing at Karl, saying, are you going to just sit there and let him say that? Are you not going to say anything? And I give Karl credit. He didn't take the bait. He took himself out of it. And I want to say, he said that the old Karl would have just beat him to a pulp. He wouldn't have cared. And that may be true. But the other surprising thing, and I know it took everything she had, was Lindsay did not go off on Karl for not taking up for her.
But Tracy, when I looked at her facial expression,
yes,
it was like not so much even that, but it was like the kitten with the catnip. It was like that's what she needed Kyle to do.
Yeah.
And he did it.
He took the bait. He took the bait.
Yes.
You are exactly right. So the next morning, Lindsay and Karl take an early exit from the house. Some people are surprised by that. They just left super early. It was the last day of the weekend. They just chose to leave out early instead of doing anything with the group. And Kyle does acknowledge that he probably does owe an apology to Karl. Didn't say anything about apologizing to Lindsay, but an apology to Karl. So we will see how that plays out. But as they are returning to the house for the next weekend, the rehashing of all of that is kind of beginning to happen, and just trying to see where people will land. And I think most people are going to agree that Karl has drank so much Lindsay Kool-Aid that he's not gonna hear anything Kyle or anybody else is trying to say to him if it's not praising Lindsay. So what do you say, Lori?
I think that the conversation that Kyle had with his mother was very telling of where he is, or at that time was in his life emotionally. They talked.
You said Karl.
I'm sorry.
I thought you said Kyle. Yeah,
no, Karl. And,
yeah.
Very much he's still mourning the loss of his brother. He still much is in hindsight thinking about, wow, that actually could have been me, because he was drinking and he was doing drugs, and and then also remember his mom had just got divorced. So he was dealing with all of these things, and now fast forward, his mom remarried. They're both healing from the loss of a son and a brother, and he's wanting that safe landing. And listening to that, you hear this desire for something, for a happy ever after. But the problem is that that's what you want. And I think Sierra, that's that nurse hat on that she has on. She's not going to just come right out and say he's newly into the sobriety. He needs to embrace that he shouldn't be in a serious relationship at this point. She said it without using those exact words, but it is true. Kyle is still getting to know. I'm sorry, I keep saying that because Kyle has his own issues, but his issues are different than Karl's. Karl is still getting to know sober Karl. And
Right.
the way Lindsay, it's like, to me, it's like Lindsay was this cat sitting along the side waiting. And now she has this she pounced, and she can mold him into who she wants him to be. And that's, now I am going to say Kyle because I do mean Kyle. That's what Kyle is talking about. Her in his ear.
And not just Kyle, but even Danielle sees that they have merged into this, morphed into this kind of one person, with Lindsay definitely being the head on that body, and Karl being the strong, sturdy body to kind of carry it off. Because Lindsay would have, there are a lot of people that would be alienated from her if not for Karl.
You said something that, and I want to ask your opinion on this. Okay, so you're right. Lindsay is the head. She is steering that body because they're one. Mm-hmm. Do you think at this point in his life that's what Karl wants? And it's easier for him to let Lindsay loose, let her be activated, let her push the buttons, because he's not in that place in his life where he can come to Kyle or even Amanda at this point to assert himself? Do you think he is allowing her to do this because that's what he needs, that's what he wants?
What I believe is that it's easier for him to accept whatever narrative, whatever plan that Lindsay wants. He trusts her. He feels he knows her. He feels ultimately she has his best interests at heart, but the part that he's negating is that his best interests have to align with her wants, needs, desires, and then that's when, it comes into consideration. It's really about what Lindsay wants and needs. And someone may say, well, she's made a lot of sacrifice for him. She is trying to show up for him in a way that's amenable to him because she wants to keep him. She knows she has a good catch. But I have to tell you, it's hard for people to truly change who they are. Karl is doing it, but Karl has done it because he's choosing to be sober. Lindsay, for half a second, was doing the sober thing. She's back to drinking, and she's back to being that underhanded. She's doing what we call the kind of, it's a puppetry thing. She's the puppeteer. So she's not necessarily doing the dirty work firsthand with everybody, but she's still allowing her agenda to play out. So my hope is that I don't want them not to be a couple, but I would just like for Karl to truly show up in the relationship and allow his voice to be at least at the same level as hers, and that they truly are making decisions and doing things together and not just, everything on Lindsay's terms. So that's what I hope. And I think that's what their friends were, because even Kyle said he's not mad at them being together. He just wants Karl to show up in the relationship as an individual.
Well, at this point, we know that Karl is showing up at Summerhouse, but I'm not too sure how his housemates really are fully taking this relationship, because it's almost like you're beginning to see the divide, and you are seeing Lindsay trying to get two women in her camp, and they're the two new girls, and it's not happenstance that I think, or strange whether that she would do that, because the other women, they know Lindsay. She knows not to try and recruit them to be on her side. Next time, I really want us to talk about the new girls and how they are fitting in, because I feel kind of a certain way about them and the new guy, and how Sierra is like she's not quite feeling him.
Right.
So, you know,
and how the other two black girls are trying to connect with the new black girl, Gabby.
Yeah.
And because they are cut from different cloths. So that's an interesting thing that I think we can watch and see how, and who she invited to meet her sister.
Yeah. Yeah.
It's
one of those, it's one of those things I want to give them a fair shot. So I'm not really going to chime in quite yet on my initial feelings about them. And I do have some feelings about them. But when her sister, they were playing tennis and we got to hear her, it helped me see even a different side. You know, it's helping to create this three-dimensional person. You know, is she as one of the girls said, missing out on an authentic experience, being a girl of color, and you know, you and I know that when you are raised a certain way, when you are exposed to certain things that maybe are not the norms for girls of color, it is going to allow you to see the world from a different vantage point. Sometimes you can lean more to the right or more to the left. A lot of those little things that come into your experience and your exposure in life, it's going to create the person that you become. And that's the reason I'm trying to get to know who is Gabby. And the other young lady, I can't remember her name. Samantha. It was funny when she had the conversation with her mother. She does talk. Yeah. She talks too much. And it's like, Mommy, yes, you're going to love on your daughter. But even if your daughter is saying that these are conversations that you have had, then, be a good mom and you can still love on her, but let her know, well, maybe that's something you can work on. You don't have to continue to feed that particular characteristic, because you talk about yourself way too much.
Yeah, but we will get into them a little deeper next time. So thank you for listening to our kind of quick take, maybe not as quick as we planned, on what's going on Summerhouse right now. If you haven't been watching, catch up. Go on and get on Peacock and check it out. You can see some of the previous seasons and get on board with Summerhouse. It is definitely a good watch. So thank you for listening to What Am I Thinking, the W.A.I.T channel. And please subscribe, like, make comments, and definitely tune in next time.